This week's sponsor is Absolution Clothing. Absolution Clothing is a new clothing brand from Liverpool with unique designs for hoodies and t-shirts for all ages at really good prices. Give them a follow, you won't be disappointed. Absolute Clothing. You'll find all the information within the description.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Billy Moore podcast, and today's special guest is Jockey. Jockey's from Transalpino, the owner of the retro store, innit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Quickest growing brand in Britain, maybe? I don't know. Been doing that now since 2006. We closed in 2010 when we had the economic downturn, but I kept the name going. Tried to sell the name in 2010. No one really wanted to know. You'd have to offer me a lot of money nowadays to sell it.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically that's it. You know, we're opened in 2006.
Yeah, it's a popular brand of clothing now in Liverpool, isn't it?
It's good, yeah. You walk around or you go to match and you see people wearing. I never stop getting a buzz out of seeing people wearing it. You know what I mean? It's a bit funny every time I see someone wearing it. I half go to let on to them, thinking I know them. You know what I mean? But you know, all kinds are wearing it now, which is good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks anyway for coming on. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have you there. Should we start from the beginning? Tell us a little bit about growing up in the Thatcher years.
Yeah. I'm from Kirkdale. I was born on Kirkdale Vale, which is just off Everton Valley, if anyone knows it. And I was born there, 1966. My mother died when I was 4, so it was just me and our kid and my old fella. I mean, my old fella had me I think my old fella was about 52 when he had me. So he, you know, and he was an old-fashioned fella, you know, not like young fathers nowadays sort of thing. So he's dead old-fashioned, dead strict with us. But as I say, there was just me and our kid, and I was 4 when my ma went, and our kid was 10, and social services were always coming around trying to take us away. So my old fella was like more or less an old man then, and he fought. He wouldn't let them take us. Unfortunately, our kid went right off the rails and he was in and out of care. I mean, he got a care order when he was 12 for playing in a derelict house. I mean, back then a care order was 12 to 18, so he got a care order for playing in a derelict house, and then it's like sort of being on a licence. If they let him out after 2 years and he'd done something wrong again, he was back in. So our kid's he's not with us anymore. He had a troubled childhood, and I suffered for that. So our kid was in the likes of Menlove Avenue, St Aidan's, later on Hindley Borstal. And my old fella used to take me along to visit him, certainly in Menlove Avenue. And he used to take me to visit him, and he used to say to the housemaster or the governor or whatever you call it, he used to throw me in a cell. I'm about 7 now. He used to throw me in a cell for 40 minutes to let me know what the inside, you know. I mean, you know, it's not very politically correct now, but I suffered for every time I suffered for everything our kids done. So I had a pretty strict upbringing. However, the streets were our playground around there. My dad was a docker, so he was always at work. We had family around us, but during the day, really, you know, as you understand, back then, people always say now, you know, they wouldn't even let the kids play in the street nowadays, but then, the streets were our playgrounds. I say, grew up on Everton Valley, and one coming to is I actually own a brand now, which is looked on by many as a terrace brand, and I'm probably qualified for that because from the age of 4 or something, or 3, I was watching mass pitch battles outside our house. I've seen the likes of skinheads, this like 1970 or something. I've seen skinheads from Notts Forest, Chelsea, Wolves, you know, United's Red Army, all coming up the valley going to Liverpool and Everton. So I was fascinated from an early age with terrace culture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our kid, he was a skinhead. He was like a 10-year-old skinhead the first time. He'd come in and tell me all stories and singing songs. So I was, you know, as a 4-year-old kid, I was fascinated. So yeah, I'll carry on because I can go on forever, mate. Yeah. So as I say, round the streets there, I mean, it's mad, but I started grafting when I was 5. I was minding cars when I was 5. Actually, where you lived, if your street, the rule, the unwritten rule was if you live in that street, you can mind cars in that street. And we were minding cars when we were 5. It sounds mad now, and then eventually, when I was about 7, the curiosity got the best of us. And I went to match when I was my first game when I was 7 at Anfield on my own.
Yeah.
I just followed the crowds up to Anfield. Me and a kid called, when I say on my own, we didn't have a responsible adult with us. Me and my mate Brian Mercer, who's no longer with us either. We went up and first game, Leicester, 1973, and then I was hooked then with the football.
7 years old, was you?
7 years old.
Wow, I was born then.
Yeah, but that was it then. Mines and cars. As soon as we got our last car in, we'd shoot up the match, try and get in. Usually the boys' pen, but we'd bunk in the cop. And then the following week, it'd be Goodison. And it was like that for all the kids around our area. It was Liverpool one week, Everton the next. So then a little bit later we moved from there over to the other side of the other side of the road, Kirkdale, by where the halfway house is in 1973. As I say, it's even though we had nothing, didn't really have a lot of money, there was always food on the table. I had no mother, but you know what? I had a great childhood. I don't, my dad was very strict with me. He always made sure there was food on the table. I tell you what though, he didn't let me. He was old-fashioned, and some of the shite he used to make me wear. I mean, honest to God, my Auntie May had come back with Czech keks and brogues from the second-hand shop, and my dad would go, these sound. I remember my dad was 55, and he's going to a 10-year-old. Yeah, I get these keks on and made me put these Rupert the Bear keks on. All my mates are wearing Lois and Adidas kick, and I wouldn't go out the out. It was embarrassing, Bill. And so
what age was you at the about 10, yeah?
About 10, yeah, around 76, yeah. So he was just old fashioned, you know what I mean? So if I wanted to wear these clothes, what all my mates wear? Because I had a lot of mates who lived on the Alaffa, and we always called, I don't know whether you know Kirkdale, but right down the bottom end's called the Flower Streets. And back then it was like the Scouse Riviera. Everyone in the Flower Streets, the mums worked in Tate's or the BA or a place called Tillotson's, and our fellas on the Zoch. They all had money, them kids. They had all the best gear, and I had to compete with them from one-parent family. So in the end we had to get out and I had to earn money to buy clothes, you know what I mean? So we'd mine cars. Rob led. I mean, our area then, it was in the middle of the biggest slum clearance since the war. You could go down, smash houses up. What am I saying? Smash houses up, derelict houses, and no one had really complained. So we used to get Rob led, mine cars. Rob sold the siphons, and I used to spend all that. I used to save all that money and spend it on clothes. You know what I mean? And that's fast forward all these years, now we own a clothing brand. So I've never been hugely into fashion really, but looking at your peers and that and wanting to dress like the kids around you and trying to be a bit smart, that was my first my first introduction into fashion, if you like. So yeah, that's the 70s, and then you're looking up at the older kids and they're all wearing the smart gear, and you're a little bit younger than me, but around about 77, 78, people started changing the way they dressed, usually related to the football, and straight jeans instead of flares come in, short hair instead of long hair, middle part instead of middle part. So that's like a backdrop to them early years. Later on, as you're going into your teens and that, I stopped going in the Cop and Boys Pen and started going in the Annie Roads, where the away fans went, and started getting interested in, at 12 I was going fighting at the match. And not so much for the violence, it was just it was the spirit, it was the camaraderie of being part of a gang, if you like.
You see the collective togetherness.
Yeah, I wasn't actually into the blood and gore. I've seen someone getting done in. I've never have been. I've always been a bit scared of blood. But the actual togetherness and the buzz of mob mentality, if that's the right word, that's what I was into. say the streets were our playground, and we just expanded it for us. We had the docks. I mean, you down in Speak Hall. What did you have in Speak? Just an housing estate, really, isn't it? Yeah, and the fields around it.
The same kind of like the upbringing. Like the streets were our playground.
Yeah,
we used to play Kirby. We used to play a lot of things. I used to enjoy it. You know, the dogs were all over the streets. There was, remember there was like, fucking hell. They're everywhere, weren't they?
Yeah, when I was a kid, like when I say, my ma died when I was young, so I used to get farms out here then I went to Speak for a bit, can't remember where. No, to family. I remember going to Wyatt, and I thought it was rough where we were from. I went to Wyatt on that Bluebell estate once, when it must have been about 1974, to stay with it. I was staying with an auntie in one part of Wyatt, but she took me to another relative of hers in other parts of Wyatt on that Bluebell. Fucking hell, I thought it was mad where we was. There was kids like up lampposts and running across roofs and everything because they had nothing. There's nothing else there. Where we were, we had the docks, we had town, we had Stanley Park, we had Liverpool and Everton. We had 1,000 bondies that looked houses to play in, so we always had something to do. But them estates like where you from, there
was no fear back
then. That's why, but. Going back to them estates, like Heighton's very similar to Speak. They brought out a lot of like great footballers come out of them places, great boxers, musicians, boxers, and fucking armed robbers or whatever. You know what I mean? They produced a lot of like a melting pot, if you like, and I was always fascinated by the likes of Speak and how different it was to us, you know what I mean? Because
I was the same. I was fascinated by the likes. Most of my family were from like Kirby, so when we used to go from Speak to Kirby as a young kid, the accents became a bit deeper up there, a bit more like Scallyish than it was where we were, and I was just fascinated with the way they lived. It just seemed a bit cooler at the time. Yeah,
I used to you used to your surroundings, so I used to be fascinated. But I've always been fascinated by anything, as I say, as a kid, and even growing up again. Every Saturday afternoon, for us, there was people coming from another part of the country, and we'd be up at the ground taking the piss out of them or whatever. I was always fascinated at looking out of Liverpool, and I've travelled a lot. As yourself, and I've always been curious about what others are doing, and maybe that makes you what you are as you get older, you know what I mean? But so as I say, in my early teens, for us it was just gang fighting and getting up to no good. But I say I had a strict childhood, and somehow I was only thinking on the way up here, I never ever brought the police to the door or the neighbours. I must have been fucking too scared of what my dad would do, you know what I mean? Because he was dead strict. Our kids, our house was getting raided all the time for him, you know what I mean? As a kid, he was just a little bastard.
He was just a few years older.
He was 6 years older.
And he sadly passed away now.
He passed away when he was 49, but me and him at chalk and cheese, it's like we're from different eras, and we basically are, really. He left school at 15, 16, even if he was in school, because he was always in and out of DC and Borstal. And he died at 49 and never had a job.
No.
He'd had one or two, casual jobs and all that. He'd never had a full... He was through on... So he would have left school around 75, 76, our kid. Right in the middle of the 3-day week. And obviously, we know work come along later, but when he's been left on the scrap heap, he's stayed there.
Yeah. And do you feel he never has any quality of life or live?
Well, no, I do. That's what I do think. Because, as I say, even though we grew up in the same house, the same parents, the same area, I think he got fucked up at 12 when he went into care. You know what I mean? We used to have the police at our house in the 90s saying, we want to interview your kids over what's gone on in care in there. And our kids going, fuck, I don't want to speak to them. Nothing happened to me and all that, but you don't know what went in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a lot back then.
Yeah,
that went on. And
so I think that whatever happened in them places, I'm not saying anything did happen, but I think that shaped his future. And it's sad that, your upbringing can shape your future, if you like, which it does, doesn't it,
all
for
the
all of us.
contributing factors, and I always say this, Jockey, that there's always something behind your behaviour.
Yeah.
You don't just like go out and do these things because, you know, it instantaneously something's contributing to it.
So looking back, as I said, my dad was dead strict, thrown me in cells and got a few, you know, he was a few beatings or slaps off, not bad, but he stopped me going on the path, or not the path our kids went on, because I actually got a lot worse than our kids in young adult life, but our kids' life was shaped for the worst in them early years, and I think my dad protected me from that, thank God. And then he died when I was about 17. He died when I was 17. We'll come to that era in a bit, but going back again, as kids, we were up to all sorts on the streets. Not bad kids, you know, just doing what you're doing and keeping up with each other, trying to be as mad as each other sometimes. If we went up to no goods, we were playing footy. I never really got into boxing. I went to Kirkdale and the Rotunda, but I was more interested in scrapping at the match instead of being a bit disciplined, you know what I mean? So that's I'm talking about the years now when I was 13 and 14, and looking back, it was times were hard. It was a great childhood though, character building maybe. And then when I got to about, you know, we start getting a bit older, your balls are dropping, get to about 15, you start looking out from your wider, you start looking out of Kirkdale, and next thing, Toxteth riots come along, so July.
Do you remember them well?
Yeah, I went down. So it weren't called Toxteth. Never when it came up Toxteth riots. What's that, Toxteth? That sounds posh. That it was Liverpool 8 or the south end to us. Yeah. So we had it down on the Sunday, and like, listen, I'm 15 then. As I say, you're stuck in your own little area. We didn't really have to leave Kirkdale unless we used to go to town. I don't think I'd ever been to Toxteth. Passed through it when we used to go to Menlove. We used to pass along Penny Lane Way and maybe Park Road, can't remember. But we went down there on that Sunday, and it was fucking crazy. See me mate Boylo there. He had a big bandage around his head like a turban. He'd been there early doors on the Sunday at the Unigate thing, and the shutters fell down on his head. He's another one who's not with us. And I didn't really get involved. I watched it. In fact, it scared me because I'm 15 and I'm going down looking at these kids who are like 18 and 15 is a big gap. But them kids from Granby were fucking crazy. I wouldn't say kids my age, but the kids on the streets then, you look back, I thought like they were like 30-year-olds. When you look at the pictures, they're like, the oldest was about 23, 25, and they were fucking crazy. They were crazy. No, when you look back,
was the hundreds of them just running up and down?
Yeah, and then white kids like us were coming in from the area, and they were fucking mad. They had one of them diggers, not a wrecking ball, but the driving them at the plod, like big massive tractors, driving them at the plod. It was crazy, and we didn't stay there long because I got scared through a few bricks and stayed at the back. And then we went down the next night, the Monday night, tea time the Monday night, the next night, and I remember the black kids coming up to us saying, "What do you want?" And I thought, well, we were here last night, there wasn't a problem. Joe, obviously, they'd fucking looked around their area, and, you know, the old fellas and that were saying to them, the likes of, what are you probably saying to them, what are you doing? You're smashing up your own area. And they looked at us as outsiders thinking, you're fucking coming down, smash. And they were right. If you like, one of us took a couple of smacks and we got chased. We got chased out of Upper Parley that night through to Myrtle Gardens. And looking back, rightly so, you know, if you're going to riot, you know, why smash up your own shit on your doorstep? Looking back, in hindsight at the time, it was fucking great. Yeah. So that's like my childhood. There was always something going on as a kid. Hated Christmas because I didn't have a mother, you know what I mean? Always hated Christmas till like I was into my 30s. But yeah, that was the childhood, and it was great. Went to St John's School in Kirkdale, later onto the English Martyrs next door. Another place what produced European Cup winning footballers and world champion boxers and all kinds of rogues, and but that's the area for us. And you know what, Kirkdale, what I do remember back then was a strong sense of community. And then you go to other parts of the country and it's not there.
Same.
And we've still got it now by ours. It's quickly like declining, the community, but at the moment it's there's still this, as you deal with some people down there, you deal with the Kirkdale Boxing Club and the Inclusive Hub. I think we are a bit different, not just us down here, but the city on a whole. We've still got like a strong community spirit, which you go to London or something, people won't even look at. I mean, I was in
well, they don't know. It's a weird place, isn't it? When you can't even hear your own accent or your own language getting spoken. And it's quite odd.
Yeah, I asked a woman in London the other week about, I was at the bus stop and needed to go somewhere, and she looked at me like I was
going with a
yeah, you know what I mean. New York's not like that. You ask someone in New York and they stop, they give you time and all that. But yeah, so back then, at that age, 14, 15, we're going away with Liverpool and all that, and then the Toxteth riots come along, and then, I'm not sure it's because I'm coming of age now, but everything started to change. I come out of school at 16, the year after the Toxteth riots, the April after the Toxteth riots, so April 82, I left school. Love school. Not the academic part, I just loved the fucking, again, like when talking about the kids at the match, the camaraderie and the carry-ons, and it was just a big joke for me, school. And I was quite bright, but never really filled my potential. And then when I left in April 1982, we'd never heard of university in school, and for me, university was something you see on university, them people on university challenge with long hair and glasses and tweed jackets or something. And so I started writing off for a few jobs in the building trades, and it dawned on me, found out there was 11 apprentices, 2,000 kids left that year, left school in Merseyside, and there was 11 apprenticeships. There was fuck all. There wasn't a job to be found anywhere, and that's 1982. So we were doing all these youth schemes and all that, and then
was it the YTSs? And
it was YOP then. It was called Youth Opportunities Programme, and the fella who we worked for at the time, Brendan Batson, who was our teacher, he was actually a Tory, or he pretended, and he just used to tell us, use a YOPs. He was quite a nice fella, actually. He was big in the local boxing, but he voted Tory, which, like, this is while the Falklands War on, and he used just YOPs. He was funny, but we were just like fodder, you know what I mean? And there wasn't a job. And we were like sort of, back then, compared to the kids now, maybe the kids now have become a little bit more politically astute because what's going on now. But back then we were politically astute because we were listening to what like our parents were saying. My dad had been made redundant on the docks about 5 years before. And everyone else was coming out of work then. The whole of our area, which you had all them businesses down by the docks and the docks themselves, everyone was coming out of work. Next thing, like the 70s, for a lot of people, like I'm talking about them on the Scouse Riviera, that was all starting to change, and next thing, there was nothing, you know what I mean? And we were like the first generation, me and our kids group, where we weren't coming out of school and walking straight into work.
No.
And as they say, the devil makes work for idle hands, and he certainly did when you go into the early 80s, heading into the mid 80s, everything changed. As I say, I'm coming of age, and I'm 18 in 1984. My old fella died when I'm 17. The Toxteth riots were 12 months, 18 months before. Next thing,
you're just a young kid still, aren't you? 18,
what?
You're just a young kid, aren't you?
Exactly.
You lost both parents.
Yeah, there's no work, there's no future, and then fucking smack hits the city, and like, from them kids rioting and it went off all over the city and all. It went off in Speak, and I don't know whether you'd remember because you'd have been about 12 or you'd be about 9, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was 9. Yeah.
And then it went off all down the country, working class areas all the country, and I've said it before. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's smack hit in the city 12, 18 months later after them riots, after there was a revolution in the air, for me, is not a coincidence. You know, who's going to want to go out riot and when it's smacked up?
Social engineering. This is what I heard, and you know, and I've shared it before with other people, and it's I believe it was like a social engineering in the Thatcher years and the Thatcher era. You know, like, let's calm the fuckers down.
It happened in Detroit in the 60s.
Yeah.
It happens in Watts, which is in is it Watts, which is more or less Compton in LA in the 60s or the 70s, when the locals are becoming unruly, something pops up. I mean, go a bit off topic, but have you ever seen the programme about when crack hit LA? With the Contra rebels in Nicaragua and all that. They flooded LA with Charlie, right? But what they didn't realise was someone discovered that Charlie could be made into crack cocaine, and it just went fucking ballistic, and it wasn't part of the plan, and that's when Reagan's war on drugs. But I'm going a bit off topic there, but I am and I'm not. No, so yeah, but yeah, as I said, so my aunt fella died when I was 17. I started having a little mess, and I went really into drugs because I was more interested in going fighting at the match and going around chasing birds and that. So all your mates who were normally into trips and weed, I went really into that. But then a little bit of speed, and then smack come along by 1984, and I had a little dabble, or just around the time my dad died, I had a little dabble. And then my dad died, and I remember at the funeral, an old woman coming up to me. When I say old, I'm like, she'd have been around 60 and I was 17, 18, and she said, "You're on drugs, your dad was worried about you, he told me about you." And I went, "What?" And I was shocked because she was sort of, even though she was laying it on to me, what she was saying, the background of it was right. And I swerved it. I hadn't got addicted at that stage, I swerved it. And then I met a bird, and then everything was rosy. It was with this bird, he had all the jewellery, I was making money, nice car, nice bird, and then you fucking think you're invincible, don't you? You're still young, impressionable, had no one to guide me. And I remember the birds went away on holiday for 2 weeks, and I stepped back into the way, like, you meet a bird and all your mates say, "Oh, he's got a bird now, he swerved you," and it'd been like that for a year. Been like that for a year to 18 months. She went on holiday, so left idle hands again, and I slipped back to some of my mates who we hadn't really been knocking about with. In that period, a lot had changed, and they were on the tackle, but they sort of had nothing. I'm driving around, nice car, nice clothes, and you think you're invincible, and I started having a go. And then that would have been about 80, 85, 86 then, so about 19, 20. And then, for me, it took about 9 months to get addicted. I mean, it doesn't happen suddenly, but looking back, you just wake up one morning, you've got fuck all. Yeah. And it all went. The birds went, the car went, the jewellery went, it all went, and next thing, you're left alone, you've got to get out. And, you know, I had to, always had a little bit of money in the bank. It all went. And I've discussed this a lot, and you'll even mention it on forums or on Twitter or whatever, and then you'd have someone popping up, and you don't know who they are, and they say, "Well, you had your choice, it's your own fault." I think it's way deeper. I think I was a product of my environment, politically and socially.
I talked about this morning as well. It was about you talk about you had your own choice. We had no choices. There was no opportunities.
You got what you were dealt.
Yeah, it's like, you either have it or you don't. That was it, right? Get what you're given. So the choices and the decisions were poor that we had. We had no interventions. There was no one, and the people that were trying to intervene, I looked as superior to me, and I was inferior, so I couldn't trust them. So there was that. Couldn't develop a relationship of trust with anybody.
Yeah, because the people, certainly I'm a bit older than you as well, the people who would have been intervening would have been parents of addicts. Yeah. The people nowadays who'll be dealing with addicts will be addicts. I mean, not taking that away from the people who tried to help me, because I tried, do you know what? When I say tried to get help, I didn't. I got took by our kids and the expert I was with to get help, and I was agreeing with them. But it's down to you. It's down to yourself, isn't it? Yeah. So So as I say, I was left with absolutely fucking all. I've been homeless. But it's it's there's only one way to get help, and that's helping yourself. And I've said it before as well. Drug addicts, they're very, very selfish, you know what I mean? And until they start to try, you can help them all, you try and help you all they can, but if they haven't got that mentality, and really you do have to hit rock bottom. And I did hit rock bottom. Didn't have a friend in the world, not because of anything I'd done, but you get invited to weddings, christenings, birthdays, even there's funerals to go to, and you don't turn up. So in the end, people just think, well, fuck you, we've heard you on the gear anyway, blah, blah. Why should we give you any time? You're not giving us any time. So people start body swerving you, and rightly so. At the time, you think oh, fuck, you know what I mean? Yeah. But rightly so, if you want to live that life, and, people might think I'm being harsh, but you have got to rock bottom, and no one's going to help you until you start trying to help yourself.
I don't think you're being harsh, mate, because for me it was like my family shut all doors on me, all avenues, everything. My world got really, really small. I felt quite lonely, innit? Yeah. And every time I went to our kids, they'd be like, go away. Yeah. Or they'd be talking to me through the letterbox. Yeah. Our kid would be shaking me hand through the letterbox. We don't want nothing to do with you.
And how bad does that make you feel?
Oh, mate.
But it doesn't make you bad enough to stop, does it? No. At first, anyway.
Do you know what I remember right now, and thinking about it, and it's heartbreaking, right? My mum used to hold a bag, walk around the house holding a bag, or put a purse somewhere, in case I was trying to nick an out tenner or something. Yeah. Or she'd open the door with the chain on. Yeah. That's the truth. That's what addiction did to me. It took me to those places, and no matter how every fibre of my body did not want to do it, but I couldn't control myself. I was powerless, and I was driven, and I needed. I'd go through that wall just to change the way I felt at that time. So I know exactly how it feels, and the shame and the guilt that you suffer when you're clear of mind.
Yeah, it's I watched Jake Abrams when you first heard it. When you first put it out, I watched Jake Abrams' podcast with you, and then I watched it again the other day because it was coming on here, because I resonated a lot with Jake's. He was another one who suffered. And then I've watched a couple of yours. I've watched John Burton's off our estate, but he's probably the same age as I'm, 6 years or something older than you. He's 6 years younger than me, so again he's a different era, John. But I know John well, but he never felt he spoke about the kids on his estate who got into the gear he was talking about, the likes of me, you know what I mean? And then it sort of bypassed them in a way. They sort of seen what a lot of them, but there's still, there's still people who aren't going to watch it. I mean, when we got into it, you didn't see the skeletons you see walking around today. You don't see the kids in the doorways and begging. You didn't see that. The kids I seen getting on gear were hard, well-dressed money earners for grafters. Yeah, until they fucking got a grip of them, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, as I say, with that came the prison. I mean, I remember one day getting nicked for shoplifting in town, and he had an £18 parking fine, and the copper come into the cell and said, we're giving you bail on shoplifting, but you've got 2 days to do in jail for this £18. You're going to pay it? I said, I haven't got 18 quid. He said, well, have you got family? I said, I've fucking closed off all them avenues with everyone. I've let down so many people. I didn't have anyone to lend. This 1990. I didn't have 18 quid to lend off anyone. I had to go to Walton in a couple of days. So the copper even said, listen, I'd pay for you, but he couldn't. You know what I mean? So it's like that when you start realising you've got no more avenues to go down, and something's got to change. But you know what? It still didn't change for another 4 years. I always knew me though that if I got some kind of prison sentence, I always felt I was intelligent enough to make use of it and get off the gear. Yeah. And so from every year from like 1980. Every year from 1989 to the end of till 1995, I spent some time in prison. They weren't long sentences; they were remands and laydowns and that. But every year I spent some time in prison. Petty, in and out. There's no way to structure your life around it. Your life is just a fucking.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's a roundabout of in and out of jail, and I'm not saying you become used to it, but it's part of like your life.
I got calls at I remember like that merry-go-round going in and out,
Yeah.
you know, little ones in and out.
Yeah.
And for me, there was like a little health farm. It was a break from
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I was doing.
it was,
and it was
yeah,
kind of saving my life in a sense.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the gym screws, because I did the gym straight away. Get on the porridge, train hard. And I'd have every intention of like getting out. And my whole life was going to be better. Right,
Because you're looking at 4 balls, planned it all, yeah.
I'm going to get a new pair of trainees. Right, this is the first thing that was in my head. A new pair of trainees. I'll look good in them. That was the idea. And this gym screw said to me, he said, you know what you are, Mo? You're a recidivist. I had to go back. I didn't know what the fuck he meant.
I don't know what that repeat.
Yeah, so we recidivist. I was like, that's when I started learning about language and a little bit, got a bit more articulate with stuff. Like, you know, I was a repeat offender. I kept coming back. I was just like that. I was like a Lazzy Barnes. He'd be flicking bang. You'll always go. And I remember them saying to me, you'll be back. Well, no, won't. Fucking 3 months later, I'm there. 3 days later, I'm there. It was always the same, and that's you know, that's kind of like
you actually mirroring me perfectly, and I'll come back to something, and I've mentioned it on the podcast before, and you have, but as you say, then I'm going forwards a bit, well, sort of new pair of trainees. I remember lying there in bed in jail in Germany, thinking this time, like, you know, I'm on my bar, my seventh time being away now. This time I'm thinking I'm going to get it out and go. I'll get out. Still do a bit of graft shoplifting, get myself a nice car for a few months. This is like mid-90s, you can get a car for 5 ton, have a few quid in my pocket, have a nice bit of Ralph Lauren. That's exactly how you were thinking, and that's all I wanted. Now,
all external stuff. Yeah,
that's all I wanted in life, was to like be able to go out for a beverage during the day. And I thought,
be normal.
I remember thinking to myself, I'll just have gear at the weekend. You fucking, you know, so, do you know what? History's shown that I've gone way past that. But that was the simple things you need. And you said it once, and I'd already said it, or I've said it since and didn't know you said it. I remember getting up to school on a Sunday morning and seeing someone walking the dog.
Yeah.
And it wasn't you said that, said, I just want to be like him. That's all. Normal, just wanted a simple life, and I've actually said that for years, and then you come up with the same. So
there's identification.
Yeah.
I remember I could share it. I was sitting there, and I had it was a moment that kind of changed everything for me. I had everything on the table, all the drugs you want. It was here. The phone was ringing. People wanted to score.
Yeah.
All that was going on, and I just broke down shopping, and it was like I had everything I wanted, but nothing that I needed.
Yeah.
You know, and it was that moment where you'd look out, you see people just going by the business, and my life was so unmanageable that I was sneaking out the house at 3 a.m. I was going down NCs. That's not what normal people do. To go to the shop or the garage, you'd be going down back alleys this way, that way, just because you wanted to avoid people. And my life became just one of like looking out the window and looking into other people's lives.
Yeah, I was a mess. I mean, I remember once going to do a bit of business with something, nothing to do with drugs. I just had to go and meet something for someone, and my mate, because my mate couldn't make it, and my mate got in touch with me late that night and said, you went to see the other fella, didn't you? Went, yeah. He's told me to tell you, never go to the boozer and see him looking like that again. I must have looked a fucking mess, like a proper tramp. And that's what it does here. I was always looked after myself. I was always clean, always tidy, always had new clothes. And it just kicks the shit out of me. But you know what? It also kicked the confidence out of me as well. And I've never been in a hard case. Always been tough, if you like, if you can understand. Never been in a hard case, but I could always stand up for myself and have a little scrap. And I lost all that as well. So not my bottle, because I still have my bottle to go and graft for my gear, but my confidence, and you know, it made me soft, if you like. So I say I was always in and out. Done a little sentence in Switzerland, early 90s. Done another one in Germany, late 80s, and then my last one was in 94 in Germany again. I used to like getting nicked in Germany, and I was leaving the country on a false passport, and I was taken. I was withdrawn in Munich airport, and they give us a tug. The coppers give us a tug in the car we were in. We were just parked up waiting for the flight or something. Coppers
so you were rattling going home.
Get on this, right? So they've searched us. They didn't. We had a load of swag on us. What we got over there. It was mad in Germany when you got nicked. Usually when they let you go, there was no like they hadn't nothing's on camera or not. You could have like 10 burg houses. When you get out, you come home to 10 burg houses because there's no proof that like. So I'm rattling there in the back of the car and I'm saying, lads, you sort the flight tonight anyway, we got a tug. And the coppers have probably just took a look at me and think, this one here. They've searched me, right? And I've got this, they were called, wearing a spray way, it was called a Rowan. Like these burg houses, fucking pockets everywhere and that. And they searched me, I'm really got nothing on me and all that. And then they pulled gear out. I'm Serbian. I've got no gear. Didn't even know where I had it. This is how fucked up your life is, you know what I mean? If I'd had that gear, I'd be straight and I'd be acting normal in the airport. So they had the other two go, and then they took me to the plod shop, interviewed me about gear and all this, because this is Bavaria. It's you can actually if someone says they bought gear off you 3 weeks ago, you can get your man's in custody for that just on you don't really need evidence in Bavaria. So they're asking me all about this gear and all that, and I'm taking and I can't remember how it was going, but anyway, next thing I wake up and I'm in a fucking lunatic asylum. So I don't know what I've been doing, but I'm withdrawing. Must be kicking off. In my mind, I'm just normal. Anyway, wake up in this fucking handcuffed to this bed with these two arm busies next to me, and then they take me out. They sit me in this big room, and it's like one flew over cuckoo's nest. Everyone's walking around on whatever they're on, the largax, all the little kosh. They put me back in the bed, didn't handcuff me, and I'm in and out of sleep. They've given me something. They've given me a shot of something to calm me down, and then I wake up and the two coppers are gone. The window's open. And do you know what? I didn't have the energy even to fucking try and get out that window. Where it would have gone anyway. You know what I mean? No passport, no money, and fucking withdrawing. So get to court the next they take me to court the next morning, and I'm sitting there in this hallway, and the coppers come in, and they say to me, I won't use the real names, but they say to me, Mr. Jones, how are you today? And I went home, sounds, because I'd used the passport in a name. Or is it Mr. Smith? Or maybe it's Mr. Brown, or it could be Brendan, couldn't it? And like use me real name. I thought I was going home. Only found a bit of gift. So all my passport off my prints, all my false passport, all my past passports had come up, and I was fucked. Remanded in custody over Christmas there. I say didn't have a friend in the world. Funny enough, on that one, I wrote a letter to my mate with my prison number. My name was David Parr on that one. He wrote back to me with my real name. So I got nicked for that. I was with him the other night. We still laughed about it. So anyway, so I got nicked in Munich and was wanted in Hanover, which is like 1,300 miles away, December, January 1995. And they put you I think in this country they called the National. They had to take me from each prison to each prison. So I ended up in 7 prisons in Germany, going from Munich to Hanover. And threw me down the block for 18 days while I was taking. Didn't see a soul. I say it was a tough time. Not like being in Thailand like you, but you still, you know, just look at your own situation. And I got to Nuremberg where they had the Nazi trials. I was in that prison there. And it sounds a bit cliched. I mentioned it the other week. I just looked in the mirror one day and said to myself, you've got to fucking get it. Sounds stupid. It doesn't sound stupid. It sounds like a cliche or a bit corny, but it did. I said, you've got to slide
that mirror by and go, you need to get your shit together.
And I did. And that was, I was getting out in the spring of 95, and I got not dismissed when they send you out of jail, when you get out of jail. Anyway, got out of jail in Hanover, actually let me out in Hanover, and he had no money. Got in touch with our kids. He went, oh, fucking you want money again? So he sent some money over to Hamburg. Didn't have 2 bob. Went out and robbed a bit of food, and I stayed in a doss house that night with a load of tramps. I had nowhere, because I was getting on the boat the next day, because I had no passport. So that's what I'm coming up to. So I had no passport. So I finally got a passport when I phoned the consul up again, said, is the passport ready? He went, yeah, come down. He just gave me this bit of white paper with me picture on. Loads of fucking German, a load of writing. I just said, this man has previously travelled in a false passport. So got on a boat from Hamburg to Harwich or Felixstowe. And it was a 24-hour disco boat. It had a disco on it. I'd been in jail for 6 months. But I hadn't just been in jail for 6 months. I've been on the gear for 8 years. Yeah. So it was my first time out in really in 8 years. But I had no money. I bumped into these 2 kids from Lancaster and they said, Scouser, have you been working? I said, no, I've just got out of jail. They went, have you? Do you have a spliff? I went, yeah. Give me a spliff. Bought me all ale all night. Scran. He said, we'll give you a lift to the Aidoch roundabout. Anyway, I went to as I was coming through immigration, this the early 90s, the special branch they were. I handed them this piece of paper, previously travelled, and they said, they went in the back and they come back out. They said, you got some good news, some bad news? I said, give me the good news first. He said, you're getting a lift back to Liverpool. Yeah. I said, oh, what's the bad news? He said, we're taking you, you're under I was wanted on other things. Yeah. And you know what? It was fucking horrible. And you know what? It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because the way you're saying about, you'll get out, you'll do this, you do that. And I had all that. If I'd have got out then, I'd hit the ground and I'd have been right back into it. But
that happened for a reason then, really, didn't it?
Everything,
some things do, sometimes,
everything, my life's always been like that. And come back to Liverpool, remanded in custody to Walton, then on to Kirkham, then I got out. I finally got out from Preston in the summer of 1995, the May of 1995. And as I say, I still had me. What is when you get out of jail? What's it called?
Discharge.
Me discharge. Yeah. So I got discharged. So I still had me bag of my property. Yeah. And it was still I still had the Berghouses from Germany. You know what I mean? I still had say 7 Berghouses and
all brand new.
All for then. So it was like my discharge grant. You know what I mean? But I walked out of Preston jail that day in just the clothes I wore. I had nothing. I didn't have nothing in the world except this bag of Berghouses, and that was on the Friday. I was back out grafting on the Monday, but this time, and as you know yourself, when you used to go out grafting, at the end of the night, you've got to have a prize, haven't you? Yeah. And the prize is your gear.
Is your parcel.
Well, this time, my mentality had changed, and I promised myself I wasn't going back, and I was opened a bank account or a building site account, and I was just putting my money in. Back in '83, before my dad died, he bought our house on a right to buy council, the council right to buy thing, and when he died, from 1983 to 1994, I still owned the house. Still had the house. My name was on the mortgage. He put me on it when I was 17. Then died, and we still had the house, but I hadn't paid a mortgage in 10 years. 10, 11 years, I hadn't paid a mortgage. But the Militant Council at the time, and Labour government, the Militant Council had a policy of not repossessing it from people who were on benefits, so they never repossessed it. But the mortgage payments and the interest had gone sky high, and I walked out and just looked at that house. It was like a bomdy. People don't know what a bomdy is. It was like a fucking squat. Yeah. But I was clean now, and I was level-headed, and I was sorry for what had happened in my previous decade, and I thought, I'm going to turn this round. I just went out shoplifting and paid the mortgage off. Paid about 20 grand off.
Wow. It meant so much to you, that house.
Yeah, and eventually, and our kid stayed in it for a bit, and I paid off all his debts and that, and I totally focused I was. Well, tell you what, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So I get out of jail, and I'm back onto the streets. It's 1995. Everyone around me, all me mates who aren't on the gear aren't really, they think, oh, well, you're off it now. How long are you off it for? 3 weeks, 2 months. You know what I mean? So everyone's wary of you. Yeah. And I just fucking kept my head down. And then I went out one night with my mate, Damien, didn't you? Who died? Damien Kelly.
Where was he from? Oh, yeah, Damien.
Yeah. Well, he was my best mate, but he's also turns out to be
he passed away,
he turns out to be my cousin-in-law. So, me and him been out grafting one day, then we go out and we bump into these two birds on the Oakham Mountain Road. And as soon as they sat down, I got speaking with them. It was Day's cousins. Yeah. And as soon as I got speaking to Jockey, I just fucking knew that I wanted to be with him. We went to the 05 one and we had a night out, nothing happened. And for 6 weeks, no, for about 4 weeks, I just fucking couldn't get it out of my head. And I bumped into her one day and I took it out and my fucking life changed from that day. But I knew that day I wanted to be with her for the rest of my life, you know what I mean? The warmth coming out of it. And back then, I couldn't look you in the eye. Yeah. To have a conversation, and my teeth were fucking bladdered. Yeah. And I had no confidence. I was totally shot. And she taught me. She'd fucking she like coached me. She said she made me believe in myself. You know what I mean? And from that day, I wasn't into. I'd spent 6 weeks fighting the fucking devil. And from that day, you know, after I went out with her and then we become an item sort of thing, I weren't interested in fucking.
How long ago was that now?
That was the summer in '95. When everyone was fucking killing each other in the city. Wow. As I said, she just fucking built me up. So in fact, she tells me now maybe verging on arrogance or fucking aloof or something. And she says, fucking, I've made you into a monster sort of thing.
It's beyond every...
Man is a strong woman, I do. Everything I do in my life, I'll always run it past her. Sometimes she'll tell me not to do something and I'll still do it and she'll say, I told you. Yeah. I told you not to do, you know what I mean? So, and she's had a tough upbringing. She was from Cherry Gardens, Liverpool city centre. There was 5 of them. Grew up, so, she was a street kid like me sort of thing.
That's all it takes, though. Jockey is like for someone to believe in you.
Yeah, that's all I needed. I hadn't had, as I said, I'd had a girlfriend when I was in my formative years, and then ends up and she was a lovely girl, and she got rid of me, and rightly so. So I'd never had a mother. And again, Jockey says, "Fucking hell, you treat me more like a mother than your wife." And she gave me everything I'd missed for all them years. You know what I mean? And that's all you need, but. Basically, I've come on here, we're talking about recovery, and we were supposed to talk about recovery, but everyone, there's always a way out for everyone. There's always something better than fucking sitting in that doorway or sticking that needle in your arm. There's got to be something at whatever level, you know what I mean?
There's different pathways. I mean, there's a lot of people that do therapy and, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and you go down them paths and that out religious pathways. There's a lot of different avenues for people to get involved in recovery and stay clean and off the alcohol. But for you, it's because you're an example. You're an example.
I was back then. There's a lot of people now who you yourself, and there's a lot of success stories now. But I used to have mates back then, like this the 90s, and I used to have mates that used to say, we're fucking sick of hearing your name in our house, because the ma used to say, well, look at Jockey, he's done it. And like, you don't realise it, and it builds you up and drives you on. I mean, in the early days of being off it, people just come up to me saying, fucking hell, you look great. I haven't seen you look that great. Just stuff like, well done. You just got
out of jail and stuff like that.
Yeah, but even a year down the line, and people still aren't trusting that you're going to win. So
it's 20 odd years now, isn't it?
It's 27, yeah.
27 years.
I think it's 27, yeah.
So did you practice I don't believe you have done practice total abstinence,
with heroin, yeah.
Yeah, with that, yeah. But I mean, because people like myself, I've got a recovery of total abstinence. Now I tried.
So you don't have a pint or not?
No, right. So
you must have had some problem with cocaine or something as well.
I had a problem with fucking everything.
Yeah, I was on the crack. I was on the crack back in '88. That was crazy.
But for me, it was never. I never really had an alcohol problem. My dad did. My father was the one who was on the bevies. I've never been too keen on the bevies. So, but I found out it was more of a gateway drug for me. I'd have a drink and it lowered me inhibitions. Because, I like to drink, the feelings that it gave me, I'd take it a step further, because it lowered me inhibitions, the fuckers would come in and go, I might as well have that. But then it's like, if I don't take it more than 3 days, I won't get at. It's all bullshit that you manipulate yourself.
No, for me, it was brown. What got a grip of me in the early years. I had a trip once or twice. Didn't really smoke weed. Got out when I got out of jail. I thought, well, you try to replace it, so I started smoking weed. Fucking hell, I couldn't get nothing done.
No.
So after I met him, we settled down. For me, then it just turned into work.
Yeah.
I was up doing the markets. At one stage on Heritage, I had 5 or 6 stalls.
What sort of motivated you to do?
Shame and the love of a good woman, maybe the motivation. And do you know what? I remember one day me and her were on the market setting up, and like she's not the best in the morning anyway, me missus. And like there's something all day. There's something all day coming off her. Bad vibe in the end. She said to me, you were fucking into that game more than you made out. Or she pulled me on it. Oh no, do you know what it was? I think she's at a wall where she thought, I've jumped into this fella's only off the gear 6, 7, 8 a year, you know, I've jumped right into a relationship with him, and I think she panicked.
Yeah.
And she got weird with me and fucked me up. She fucked me off, and it devastated me. Honest to God, it fucking...
She was protecting herself.
Yeah, one of the biggest fucking downs in my life.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I could easily just walk back for the... I remember it was Christmas '95. Wonderwall was number 1. And I never went back to it because I thought, I don't want it, because she's only from the top of our street anyway, even though we didn't really know each other. She was off the estate at top of our street, and I thought, again, shame and pride. I thought, I don't want to bump in. I can't go and have a go with that. I don't want to bump into her in 6 weeks' time or something. I'm fucked on the gear. You know, it's...
I told you so, yeah.
Yeah, not even I told you so, but just like the shame and... or letting her down. I've pulled the wool over her eyes and wasted her time. And then I bumped into her one day, and we've never spent any time apart since then. Brilliant. Again, she needed that time to get away from me, just to step back and take a look. But to ask me what it was just there. She made me, she gave me, and it weren't easy. Like the confidence, I didn't get confidence overnight. It took me 5, 10, 15 years to get where I am now. Do you know what? I've been clean in 2011, so I've been clean 15 years. So I thought, you know, I want to give a bit back. So I went on a counselling course. I wanted to become a counsellor and help people like I'd been. So it was over 2 years. So the first year I'd done the course, and you'd have to really open up on a counselling course and go deep into your own past. And I thought, no, after the end of the year, I thought, it's not for me. And no disrespect to anyone, but at the end of the day, with addiction, you have to think about yourself first. I just didn't want to step back into that environment and mix with people like that. So I walked away from it. But as I said, when I first met her, I used to talk like that and couldn't keep eye contact, just not because anything's done wrong, just because of shame and no confidence. And I remember on this course, there was 11 of us all sitting around in a room like this, and they all got a piece of paper. About 11 or 12 of us, they all got a piece of paper. They said, write down who you think the most confident person is in the room. And they all wrote it down and all threw it in. It was me. But by I won it by 5. Yeah. You know, I got 5 votes, everyone else got 1. And I was shocked because I didn't know. And I thought, where the fuck's that gone? How am I so confident? So that's how much she built me up, you know what I mean? To the aloof, fucking arrogant bastard I am today.
Brilliant. So, going forward now...
But, sorry, let me butt in. And then our kid died. So, as I say, for me, it was work. And then our kid died at 49. I stepped back a bit then and thought there's a bit more to life. So, I started to do other things rather than, just fucking work. So, I stepped back a bit at that stage, which was 10, 11 years ago. But, yeah, it's still work, but not as... not as intense, really.
You're still being relatively a young man, really, 49, 50.
Not half, yeah.
So sad, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But, you know what, as I say, getting back to them times he spent in in them places, our kids seen everyone as a authority. Our kids seen a taxi driver as authority. Our kid's hair was down here, his nails were there. He wouldn't let anyone cut his hair, wouldn't let anyone touch him. And then the week before he died, he started saying to me, "You're into that internet, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Wait, can you start looking into like these forums you're on about, any forums about kids getting abused in the care system?" I went, I said, "Yeah, but you said, you know," "No, I never, like, but I know lads who might have." Yeah. And so I went on these forums, joined these forums, they did exist, you know what I mean? I found this fella from Manchester, and our kids went, "Yeah, I know him, he was in St Aidan's with us." So I sent him a message, anyway, our kid died. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, I got an email. The fella's only just seen the email. Yeah. And because this is a fella who'd be 60 or something now, so he went 2 up on his emails. And he went, "Yeah, I remember your Dickie, yeah, how is he?" I went, "Fucking hell, mate, he died last week." But what I'm trying to say to you is, a week before our kid died, he starts asking me to research all this shit, which is, I don't get angry over it. I just think it's fucking...
Dirty bastards.
Just another fucking cover up, yeah.
Another fucking horrible cover up, and it's there's a lot of that going on in this fucking.
There's something like lads of a certain age who were there back then. It was called the Easter Breakout. You know where Menlove was, don't you? Yeah. It's on Menlove Avenue. You can still see where the visiting room was. It's still there, and they done a mass breakout in Easter 2000, in Easter 1974 or something, and they all used to laugh about it over the years, but I think they were all running away from what was going on there. Yeah, you know what I mean. It was a nasty place. The abuse, the ones who actually got found guilty from Menlove, I might be wrong, but I think it was more like it wasn't sexual. It was more like
physical.
Physical. You know what I mean.
A lot of bullying and violence.
Yeah. Where was we?
We were in Menlove.
yeah. No, we were talking about our kids. So talk about me being confident. So where are we now? Yeah. So with the backdrop of all that, I'd still always been. When I got on the gear do you know what? That's what I want to speak about. So I was messing around with the gear in like 87, 88, and you're still like ecstasy come along, which diluted it because I got round to the ecstasy as well. So I think it diluted me heroin problem. And then Hillsborough, I went to Hillsborough in 1989, and where we talk about the terraces and that. From 1989 to 1996, I never went to a football match after Hillsborough. Just was not interested what had happened there. I just was not interested in football. So you had a full
experience of like the tragedy that happened in
Hillsborough? Yeah. I've got a picture of me carrying one of the Hordens, and I got interviewed by Operation Resolve in 2015, and I gave them the picture. He said, "We'll take that away. This kid on the Horden, spark out," and he took the picture away, and they got back to me in 5 weeks. He said, "That kid on the Horden, he's not a victim, he didn't die." I said, "I was in here, who is he?" And he said, "Well, we don't know who he is, we just know that he's not one of the victims." So to this day, I don't know who he is, but where I was coming up to Hillsborough was, and the terraces and what have you, 4 of us went to Hillsborough, and I'm the only one still alive. All after Hillsborough, when we all come back, and I'm not blaming it because we were already messing around with the fucking shite anyway, but all 4 of us went on a proper roller coaster. I mean, at Hillsborough, I was stood in the, I was carrying bodies, I was stood in the morgue, the gym, which was the makeshift morgue, surrounded by 30, 40 bodies, and you know what? It never hit me. I didn't cry. Come home, self-medicated. Looking back now, self-medicated. And then about 3 weeks later, it fucking just hit me like a train, you know what I mean? But from that point, the rest from after that point, the 90s, them early 90s were a total roller coaster. And as I say, 4 of us went there, and the 4 of us went on the same roller coaster, and luckily I fucking got off, you know what I mean? It's sad, and I think you know, as when people again say it's your own choice to do all this, it's a lot deeper than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so I never went to match for 6 years, and just wasn't interested. And one of the lads said to me when it was clean again, "Fancy the game?" I went, "Oh, not really." And I went and I got fucking hooked again.
Yeah.
And I've been to 37 countries with Liverpool. So it's fucking, that's because my old fellow when I was a kid, he used to sit me down. He was a seaman. He used to say, "You'll never get a chance to go to these places."
Yeah.
And I've done most of them, a lot of them watching the Pool FC. So coming up to Transalpino, it was quite natural that I'd launch a brand which was related to you know, the terraces, if you like, to football culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's brilliant. How you've achieved, you know, like, I'm just like fascinated by the story because it's so similar and I can identify. And it's incredible how you've come from full circle. And it just goes to show that people can change and motivate themselves and be successful in business. So have this, you know, you've got a shop now on Bowl Street.
Yeah,
you know, which is quite popular. I was in there last week and it was, you know, there's people in and out all the time buying things. And like you said, you see people wearing them in the street, and you know, it must be a great feeling.
It is. It's a feeling, and it's not always about money. Obviously, you always need money. For me, it's accomplishment because I've been in the gutter. I've been homeless. I mean, I getting back to our kids, I never ever used to share that with anyone until when our kids died. I thought, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to live my life. I don't give a fuck what people think, and if they want to judge me. And it opens up about my past. I mean, I speak to older relatives and older neighbours or older friends of the family, and they say to me, "Listen, we can see what you've achieved now, but at the time, you didn't stand a chance. I was
Lit off.
I was in I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the right time if you're a drug dealer. So I didn't stand a chance, but as I say, I met Jockey and she totally turned it around for me. And that's all you need. I think that's all you really need, that one chance in life. But to grab it, you know what I mean?
Well, we're coming to the end now. So, and I always say this, and you know this, because he said you want to. Any pearls of wisdom? Is there anything you'd say to a young jockey coming through the doors of your life? What would you say to him? If you had the opportunity to see yourself back then, right, and go, look, here's a little bit of advice for you, what would you say to yourself?
Joe said last week about any kids, and I'd say, as Joe said, stick away from that green. Stick away from that green shade, because it's like the new smack. But basically, for me, if I had the chance all again, and you'd often say, I often say, what would you, if you bumped into the 18-year-old you, you know, would you like him? And I wasn't a bad kid, but I was a fucking dickhead. Education for me, you know, because nowadays a life of crime, you're just wasting your time because everything's stacked against you. You know, your fingerprints, face recognition, everything. You know, your phone, everything. Look at all these people doing
the encroach.
Time for the encroach, all down to the phones. You know what I mean? So, just me is get yourself educated, get yourself a trade, because fucking hell, the new grafters are. And if there's anyone out there, I need someone to fit 3 doors, because you can't get one. You can't get a fucking carpenter. No. You know what I mean? So that's it. Get yourself a trade, because you can name. You know, you've got graft for the rest of your life. And no one's getting a 10-year sentence for fitting 3 doors, are they? No. But they're getting like. They're probably getting the same wages as what these kids who think the big time Charlies are getting. You know what I mean?
And with that, thanks for coming on, mate.
And you
enjoyed it. Enjoyed it.
Sound.
Brilliant.